Hello, and welcome to the first podcast of Happy Guys. Happy Hamster and I, ThatOwlGuy, will be talking about...
Well, they didn't need healthcare.
Well, it's...
Get bitten by a wolf, you cut off your arm.
Well, that and college education. You see, in America, we have the unique problem amongst developed countries of having top-notch education for an arm and a leg for the rest of your life. So stay tuned to listen how we get to the bottom of this crippling issue. Okay, this is going to be our first episode on education. Specifically, college education. I guess the more riveting kind of education. You think middle school and high school education is going to be exciting, but in retrospect, it's just kind of like, I don't know. It just sort of seems like you put more effort in the social aspects than you really needed to.
I mean, maybe you did.
Well, I didn't really put that much effort into it, but the effort that I did put into the social aspects, I didn't really think that it required as much effort as I put into it. I don't know. Sort of.
Maybe you just don't like people.
Well, I wouldn't say that I don't like people.
Really? Because you're saying right now that you spent way too much time socializing.
I didn't say I spent too much time socializing. Goodness. I said that I probably thought too much about the few social endeavors that I did partake in middle school and in high school.
Okay, that's different.
It's quite a bit different. Yeah. So education, college education. We're both in college right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. I wouldn't say that it's the worst thing being away from home, other than your dorm kind of looking like a jail cell.
I mean, I want to be fair here. Not every dorm looks like a jail cell. Most do. Most dorm rooms look like jail cells.
Yeah, they do kind of look like they should be holding hardened criminals.
Which we kind of are.
Well, I wouldn't say that at all. I mean, I wouldn't say that we're hardened criminals even a little bit. I mean, you have like a switchblade that you carry around sometimes.
Oh my god, it's not a switchblade.
It's not a switchblade?
It's not, no.
Okay. You have...
It's a knife that has a spring inside of it that helps you open it when you press press down on the thing, but it's not a switchblade.
Okay, so it's just... Okay.
Oh.
You have a sharp object that you carry around, and I don't think that qualifies you as a hardened criminal or someone who is... I don't know what to define you as. Just think of you as a big softy.
I'm not even a softened criminal?
Not even a softened criminal. You're not even like a white-collar criminal. Yeah, I know.
Are white-collar criminals really softened criminals? Because they can do some pretty horrific things.
Well, I imagine they're still a bit soft because the nature of their crimes has a bit of detachment to it. It's like some sort of economic thing, and it might be a game to stave off boredom and get more money at some point.
Do you...
As opposed to someone who's like in a sort of impoverished situation or sort of forced into being in a gang or something because of the social protection it provides and the situation that they're in and having to deal with harsh realities of, like, I guess, not being in a well-funded school system or something like that. But we're getting off topic. This is about college education.
So you're trying to wrap it up there at the end.
I guess.
With the school system.
Within the school system,
We should talk about that sometime, though.
We should talk about public school system.
You said a lot there.
I did say a lot there. I'm going to talk a whole lot. That's the whole point of this. Okay, college education. I guess one of the big questions is it worth it? And
I think the overwhelming answer to that is usually yes.
Yes, it is usually always worth it, but then you always have this sort of voice that's sort of like, but no one's getting jobs, but I guess people are getting jobs, because it's sort of interesting when we talk about, I guess, unemployment, and not to make light of it, but when we have like 5 or 6% unemployment, which are unbelievably high, and that's sort of like lots and lots, like millions of people without jobs, that still means 95, 94% of everyone has a job. So it's still sort of like, in the grand scheme of things, mostly everyone has work. If you had 10 random people and you pick them out of every single person at 5% unemployment, you're probably not going to, or you're going to have a very low chance of picking out someone who is unemployed.
Well, yeah. So,
So-
5 to 6% is pretty alright. I mean, unemployment...
Well, it's not. Well, it's like interesting because it sort of seems like not to sort of like bite into, I don't know, your feeding of this opinion, but it's just sort of like the worst that we usually tend to think of things ends up being not that bad when you compare it to like stuff before, just in general, or just other things. Well, I guess when you have something worse, there's always something worse. I guess that's what I'm basically saying. But yeah.
So when you have something worse, it's always worse.
Well, there's always
I'm
something
glad we
worse.
come to this
There's always
conclusion.
something worse than the worst thing that you can think of. Probably, most likely,
This is depressing.
in most cases. Well, isn't that like a bit happier? See, that doesn't seem depressing to me because sort of like if there's always something worse. That worst thing isn't happening to me. It's happening to someone else.
Okay,
And
I guess it's kind of a positive way to
it's
look
sort of-
at it.
I guess so. A positive way to look at the fact that everything could be worse. I suppose.
Yeah. But
Okay.
still, 5 to 6% unemployment
5%.
is a... I'm no economist, but I want to say that's a healthy economy.
I suppose so. That's still like questionable. You get like people get banged over the heads in political circles or complained about in important positions when it's like 5 or 6% is kind of high, even though I guess my elementary understanding of the economic system sort of demands that there be like 1 to 2% people, at least in the general model that we're thinking of, unemployed to drive demand for jobs. So
Yeah,
it's not
but-
just sort of you work if you want, but
That's pretty much what I would have thought too. Like, again, not being an economist, that's what I would assume would be a very healthy economy. Would be a little bit of unemployment just to keep people in demand, I guess.
Yeah. Though that sort of seems to be everything's different now. I think it's mostly different because of this wonderful internet thing that we're talking on in a tiny microphone stuck onto a piece of cardboard going on the internet. The internet is what I'm talking about.
You know,
Is that-
you shouldn't tell them.
What do you mean I
You
shouldn't
shouldn't
tell
tell them
them?
our setup.
Humble beginnings.
They need to think, wow,
It's fine.
these guys seem...
We're sitting
They
in
must
my
be
dorm
professional.
room.
No.
It's atrociously messy. I just threw a part of a fan to the side. Like, it's just metal. It's just kind of bent metal.
That was a part of a fan?
That was part of a fan. Like, part of the base of the fan that stands it up. That's what is sort of thrown to the side.
Oh, okay, I see it. I see it
Yeah,
now.
see, that's how
I
that
see
is.
it.
So, that's the condition that this is in. I have, like, it's a tiny microphone that we're, like, renting from an office over the weekend, and it's just interesting. We're using Audacity, a free audio software. I'm just gonna say
Not
everything.
a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. It's just freeware to record stuff. That's actually it's pretty good for that. But anyway, it's just squalid conditions everywhere. But anyway, college education, economy. Where were we talking about? Something about how 1 to 2%.
yeah,
Oh, I was about to get
jobs,
on.
yeah.
Okay,
Talk about jobs.
Just sort of the way I see it, because of the internet, that doesn't seem to be the case, that you sort of require this subset of people to be jobless to drive demand for jobs, because there just seems to be such a variety of creative positions that need to be filled, whether officially or freelance-wise, that it's sort of, you can have an economically viable environment without widespread unemployment being that 1 to 2% that is sort of classically thought in my elementary understanding as necessary for a thriving economy. But that sort of seems to be the thing when you have a large abundance of the American workforce having to go into low-skill jobs like factory work, where they can work for a while and then have a good retirement and then retire, which doesn't require a college education. But things are different now, because now it's sort of like everyone has to go to college, because otherwise you're going to be in one of those low-wage jobs that's going to be phased out by the robots when the singularity approaches. So you're kind of fighting the robots a little bit early on. There are some like automatic McDonald's, some of the drink machines at places. You don't have a person doing that anymore. They're slowly taking that cash register job. It just seems so simple at first, but you think about it, person at a fast food restaurant, when you ask for that drink, they like choose what that thing is and then pour it for you. But now they just give you a cup and then a machine does it for you, which is probably one of the least, least harmful things, considering there are sort of self-serving stations already that aren't robots. But I guess that wasn't actually the best example of robots taking your jobs, considering a not robot already took that job, kind of.
Is there a point here?
The point is everyone needs a college education because robots are taking low-skill jobs, and that's kind of what's happening right now.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I guess so.
You seemed a little tangential there. I was getting worried.
You need to bring us on track. So, that being said, the fact that we kind of need... Well, I guess you don't necessarily need a job, but considering how wages are...
Need a job?
Well, you need it. Well, you need a job. What I mean by need a job is you don't need a high-paying job by going to college. You could technically get a job, like, I guess, in the service industry or something like that straight out of high school, but your income opportunity is greatly reduced in comparison to the average person who did go to a 4-year university and got some education.
That's true. I've seen multiple different statistics where people talk about the salary percent increase from graduating high school and from graduating college, and then, comparing that to people who have gone to a little bit of high school or gone to a little bit of college. The real jump in salary it only happens after you graduate high school, and it only, the next real big jump only happens after you graduate college. So, yeah, if you want a higher paying job, you're going to have to go to college. I mean, at the very least, you're going to have to go to high school, but that isn't going to, be a well-paying job most of the time.
Yeah. I guess another thing about this question is that it might be uniquely American, because one of the big problems with education in America is just how expensive it is compared to sort of other equivalent developed countries. Like, even if we go across, I was about to say across the pond, even though it's North Canada.
Across that real big pond of forest.
Well, we have lakes, though, so, like, if you're in Michigan and you don't want to go to, like, land and you just want to cross by boat, that's across a really big pond known as a Great Lake, right? It sort of looks like an ocean.
Now here's the question.
View. Yeah.
What lake is it?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I'm an American. I don't know geography. We're talking about uniquely American problems, like how we don't know how to pay for college, and
how we don't know
what our own lakes are called.
Yeah, well, are they really our lakes? I don't think they 100% belong to us, do they?
I don't know. I guess that's also another American perspective. I just assume that
that they're ours.
Those lakes are ours. But if we get to like the edge or the border of where the shore of Canada, that's theirs.
Okay.
But everything after that,
you guys can keep the shore.
You guys can keep
your boats off of our land.
You just keep off our ocean. Like, they can go a bit far out into the water. I'm not saying that, like, once you step off the sand into water, you're in American territory.
Oh, I'm gonna say that. I'm totally going for that now.
Okay, so you're just gonna go up to the shoreline of Canada, and anyone tries to enjoy swimming. I don't know. That's cold. Do Canadians go out to, like, the beach in cold weather? Is it cold most of the time? Do they go out? I imagine it'd be okay in summer.
Yes, probably. I'm assuming they have 4 seasons.
I saw, but it's not as warm. It's not exactly Florida.
Well, no, but I think their summers are warm enough to go outside.
Well, probably.
I think it cracks the 0 degree line.
Probably, most likely. I think Canadian summer and spring would be like kind of beautiful. I think. Probably, most likely.
Well, I'm sure it is. Why are we talking about spring?
Because
why are we talking about the beautiful?
We're talking about Canadian spring because we're talking about college education in America, and college education in America is a interesting and pedantic subject because it costs too much, and we all need it. And every other country is like, oh, this is something that everyone needs to do. It makes our economies better. Let's try and make that college cheap. And then America's just like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We're going to cut funding to public universities. And all the colleges are then like, oh shit, we need executive financial people on our boards. And then education goes up, and instead of buying, I guess, better educational resources, you buy a new gym because that attracts people and makes you more money. So then you're running a business and not an institution.
That's typical.
That's typical.
Or topical is what I meant. That's very topical.
I don't know. It's becoming, there's some behaviors that are becoming typical of American colleges and universities, and very topical. So expensive. It's just, I guess that's kind of bad, but it's still worth it, even with the fact that it's so expensive and you'll be saddled with debt for the rest of your life. It's still a better alternative to not going to college, unless you're Gates, Jobs, genius person. Then it's economically viable for you to start your own business because you're going to revolutionize the world in some very specific, creative way.
Yeah, it's kind of a rock and a hard place for college students these days, because if you go to college, you have this unbelievable weight of, I think the average is $30,000 in debt after you graduate.
Yeah.
And that's only if you go to undergraduate school. And if you go to graduate school, you have a whole new ballpark of more debt. And I actually discussed a bit of the subject with a nurse not too long ago. I'm fine. I'm not in the hospital or anything, but I did talk to a nurse.
Talk to a nurse. Was this like a public set? Were you like friends with this nurse, or was this during a checkup or something? Or?
No, I was in the hospital for a undisclosed reason.
Oh,
but
just harvesting organs.
Yeah,
for secret experiments.
I guess if we have to tell everybody, I was harvesting organs, and I chatted up the nurse.
You chatted up the nurse to try to get some organs, but you ended up talking about college.
Well, I thought about chatting up the nurse to get a date, because she was kind of attractive.
Okay.
But she, my dad actually talked to her a little bit too, and I mentioned how attractive she was, and he said, "Yeah, I think she has a kid," and I thought, okay, that's fine. I'll let that go. But anyway, I did talk to a nurse who said that college debt is getting so unbelievably high and weighty for doctors that most doctors aren't making a lot of money in those first years out of school, because they have to go to undergraduate school, then they have to go to graduate school, they have to go to medical school, and that's years and years and years of college and years of debt. So they're coming out with astronomically high debt,
and fiscal chains,
and they aren't getting paid as well as what I thought. It's what I gathered from what she was saying. They aren't getting paid as well as they used to. So the medical profession for doctors is actually, it's honestly not that great of a field to go into because of the difficult financial situation that they're in, which is, it's a little concerning.
It's a little off-putting. It's a little concerning. Sort of like, I did all this work. I did what I was supposed to do. If I didn't do this, I would have probably less of a general quality of life, but it's still like, I have to do this. It's sort of like you're taken hostage by a path that you have to do. Though, I sort of want to say that's not absolutely the case, but you're very, very forced to have to go to college, even though I feel weird about saying that, even though I think it's true, because I do think going to college, getting a higher education is something that everyone should do, and it just sort of seems weird that it's a thing that you're forced to do when it should just be seen as this great opportunity. It's sort of like how healthcare is. It's like everyone needs it, nowadays, but it's very hard to get good coverage.
Wait. Everybody needs it nowadays?
Well, I mean...
You know, back in the little house on the prairie times, they didn't need health care.
Well, it's...
Get bitten by a wolf, you cut off your arm.
Well, that didn't exist yet, so that wasn't
don't need it. Don't need no health care.
That wasn't a...
Cut off your limbs, kids.
Okay. Oh, but it's like...
Sorry, okay. I'll let you go on now.
Okay.
That's all I want to do is make fun of you.
Okay. So, but like healthcare, like college education, healthcare, things that you need a long time back when there wasn't college education, or at least there wasn't college education available for everyone, and it wasn't meant for everyone. And there, a long time ago, there wasn't healthcare for everyone, and I guess it wasn't a thing. I guess. Well, doctors. If we look now, what doctors did back then, they kind of did a bad job, so you really wouldn't want their healthcare because they sort of had weird ideas about how to clean wounds and do stuff, and it gets worse and worse as you go back. Like,
I think I would rather have my arm cut off than have gangrene.
Well, you'd probably
at that point they were spot on.
You'd probably get even worse. You probably get even worse infection, or if you didn't have an infection and you had to get your arm cut off, you'd probably get an infection because it wasn't until, like the 20th century, early 20th century, I would like to say. I don't know. It's like around that time, probably a bit before then. Actually, probably a bit. Actually, I don't know. Sometime before then, it didn't become really common practice until early 20th, late 19th, I want to say, though I'm pretty sure now I'm a little bit wrong about this, that we didn't have a, like, phenomenal understanding of germs. I might be a century too far along. And it's just like, oh, we're gonna do stuff and fix somebody and, like, fix them up and it's going to be alright. And then it's sort of like, we don't need to wash our hands because we're... Okay, so yeah, that's not 20th century. That's early 19th, late 18th, I think. I'm more sure about this now, where it wasn't common practice. It wasn't common practice for doctors to wash their hands when they wanted to treat patients. So it's just sort of like, I'm going to work on this person, and I know what I'm doing because I'm a doctor, and I'm not dirty because I'm a gentleman. And that's basically the thought of it, because not that great of an understanding of germs and diseases, and it took a long while for people to think, oh, these, like, mothers dying afterwards of childbirth and having these weird random infections that come up is just from washing your hands. And, like, the first people to start doing it were basically ridiculed out of circles as being weird. Just sort of like, why are you washing your hands? Aren't you a clean gentleman? Do you go around to, like, whorehouses and disrespect people? And are you a belligerent, dirty person rolling around the mud? And it's like, no, but mortality rates drop when you wash your hands. And, I don't know, there's so many medical advancements today, it just sort of seems like a good time to have healthcare as opposed to before when a lot of it could have killed you. Like, it would have been the cause of your death as opposed to prolonging your life, and no one would know.
But if those doctors didn't do anything, you would have had no chance of life. Well, at least with them doing something, you had some chance of life. I'm not gonna let you say that it was much better to just not see a doctor if you needed help.
Well, in some cases it might have been, but that was based on, it's just sort of like, when you're looking back at people who have been dead for a really, really long time, and you're in the future where everything's better, it's really easy to scoff at the barbaric practices, even though they're only working with as much as they can know. And I guess I'm a little bit more biased because, well, I'm a philosophy major. Used to be a computer science major, but now that's a minor. But I'm still believe wholeheartedly in the fact that eventually sort of my echelon or group of people of academics, and I guess in the same sort of vein of engineers, even though I'm not an engineer, and I sort of like angrily refuse to be called an engineer, even jokingly. I'm not sure exactly why. You guys aren't that bad. You do lots of things. You made my phone and everything, and buildings and stuff. But
I have friends that are engineers.
Oh, you do?
I am personally offended by your opinion.
You're personally offended?
Yes, very strongly.
But anyway, what was I even saying? I just forgot again.
I forgot
something about. Oh yeah, is that? Oh goodness, I actually did forget what I was saying. engineers, not so bad. Oh, robots are going to take over everything. So I'm sort of a wholehearted believer that if we keep advancing things as we are, that eventually, a long time in the future, we're going to phase out people doctors, not people researchers. Because even though robots can sift through a lot of information, they really can't do anything with it unless specifically programmed and guided to do stuff. So I don't think there's going to be an end of, like, doctors, but doctors as we know it. So there would be doctors that would take evaluations, but they would use those robots as tools to do everything, basically. And so you wouldn't have one person trying to come up with a diagnosis based on what they learned in school, and they skipped over lots of stuff because you can't know everything about everything in your medical field. And even if you knew it at one point, it's always changing. So having something like, what was it called that beat that dude at Jeopardy? Like DeepMind or something like that?
Oh, I'm not sure.
The robot, something like that. Like they would analyze a person and then they'd have access to every single doctor's knowledge and able to pick it out through special algorithms. And so they'd be the special assistants that know everything about medicine. And maybe even later there'll be robots that are dexterous enough and with human guidance can do perfect surgeries because they're just like programmed to do things algorithmically and aren't prone to human error. So I think just increase of robotic intervention or robotic partnering and artificial intelligence will make the medical field much better in the future. We'll make lots of things much better. But I guess that's a very long-winded way to say they're coming for your jobs, but they're going to be your secretaries. But, yeah.
It's a bit of an optimistic look at the future.
Yeah, it's a lot better
not to be pessimistic. I'm going to let the 3 people listening to this podcast know that I am the optimist in this duo.
Oh, you
I want the... Oh, yeah. Oh, totally.
I guess that does make sense. I want to think of myself as a realist, and I mostly come up with things and sort of am surprised when people go, that's kind of negative. And I'm like, what, how? When I think of that, it actually makes me a bit happy, which I guess is a bit strange. Like your earlier...
That might be a need for concern.
Maybe, but it was like your earlier comment about... I was like, you know what, things are pretty bad, but think about it. It could always be worse. And you're sort of like, that's the most pessimistic thing I've heard. But the way I've, like, internalized that is that makes me think, oh, what I'm doing right now isn't so bad because someone else has it even worse than I do. So that wasn't really, oh no, it can get worse. It was sort of, it's fine. It could be worse.
Well, looking at it that way, if we're going to return to that subject, looking at it that way, I think that's a negative way to look at it, because you can always think to yourself, my life is pretty alright. You know, I have a warm bed to sleep in at night. Yeah. My food is pretty easily available. Yep. You know, neither one of us are in poverty. You know, we have a firm family and financial situation to support us. But whenever you say, it could be worse, I'm sure there are a lot of people who have it worse than me. Yeah. That's kind of negative.
Well, I guess so. I don't know. I guess I tend to look at things as not... I don't know. I'm very pedantic and around the way, so instead of saying, this thing is good, I'm more prone to think, this thing is not bad.
That might be the most true thing you've ever said in your life.
This thing is not bad. This thing is not terrible. It would be not the worst thing. It's just a whole bunch of negatives, and I mean something positive, but my first mind is to go through this extra hoop of translating this not symbol in front of everything. It's sort of interesting, I guess. Well, maybe not. I guess that was sort of simple. I don't know. I don't know anything. So anyway,
nobody does.
College education.
Right. Let's talk about college education. Let's just have a nice little conversation about it. So we've talked before. Is it necessary if you want a high-paying job? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. Is it way too expensive speaking in the American sector? Yes, it's way too expensive. And just to touch on this a bit, I think the 3 people watching this podcast, maybe watching
this podcast. They're on the YouTube They're on the YouTube channel. Goodness.
We do actually. Yeah, we do have. We're releasing this on several different internet outlets. So you could be watching it.
You could be watching this. You could be staring at whatever we decide to put up while you're watching it.
We haven't decided.
We haven't decided that yet. That's still to come as of this recording. So you could be intentionally looking at the screen of one image, just, I don't know, to study it. Maybe you're looking at the pixel quality. Maybe you're annoyed because we didn't release our podcast in 4K. You were just like, oh, they only released it in 1080p. What are they going to do? I have a 4K TV. I'm supposed to listen to this podcast in 1080p. That's not going to cut it. I bought this TV for too much money. It's like, yes, you did. You bought that TV for way too much money. How many 4K options even are there? It doesn't even seem like that much.
I don't know.
I have no
but
idea.
Anyway, glad you had your little.
I'm glad I had
your
my
little thing.
Yes.
So, to the 3 people listening to this podcast, the majority of my expertise in certain areas comes from YouTube videos. So, I'm no expert. That's really clear. I'm just not an expert.
Video watching expert.
A bit. I'm pretty steeped in the whole YouTube universe. But I did watch a YouTube video about the where college money is going and the reason that it is so expensive. It's actually a pretty popular video. It was I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe it was a Hank Green video.
Okay.
So
Vlogbrothers.
Yeah. So it's probably out there, so people probably know what I'm talking about. But what was interesting was that the majority of college money spent goes to professors. It goes to professors' salary. And depending on what university you go to, depending on what professors you have, that can range, I think he said, anywhere from, I don't know the low number, but I know he said that, you can have a celebrity professor who gets paid $500,000 a year. So I want to say probably a solid $100,000 to $500,000 a year. And that's just for one professor. So, college professors are expensive, which they should be paid well. But that cost of college professors has kept pace with inflation throughout, the decades. It's not like college education was this expensive back in 1970. It's not like the inflation rate is, it's not like the inflation rate matches the two. The expense today is more expensive than the expense in 1970.
And wages, like at least minimum wage, and wages in general haven't sort of kept up pace with that inflation, and also haven't kept up pace with the increased productivity of the workforce we have. Because now the American workforce now is more productive than they have ever been, and are becoming more and more productive and able to produce more content, or I guess more whatever it is you need from whatever job you're doing. But there hasn't been a wage increase for inflation or for that increased productivity, even though the fiscal requirements to get to those higher points in your career have increased because of college education.
Right. And what was interesting was the reason he laid out for the huge expense for college, for this price increase, is that there is a greater demand for colleges, and I know that there's more demand for college than there is supply. So, that's another reason why it's so expensive. And since there has been this big increase in demand, there's been more competition between colleges. You can probably get a fairly similar, adequate education from these 3 different colleges, but one of them has this nice little cafeteria that has organic food that they get, and it's a little bit more expensive for the student, but with that little bit more expense, it's worth it for the organic cafeteria. And then the other colleges see this, and they see a drop in their student enrollment. And
there's not enough kale to keep students.
Exactly, there isn't enough kale at their schools to keep students, so they increase their cafeteria quality, and they put in a new pool at the gym. So now students are seeing, well, this college has the same thing as the first college, but it also has a new pool, and I love me some swimming. So I think that's the gist that I got from his video. That's how college has gotten so expensive, is that the demand has increased, and so what colleges have started to do is make themselves more marketable and more appealing to students, which costs money. And so a lot of our money is going into, one, professors, and two, the improvement of the school, which is a good thing, I guess, but that price right now is just astronomically high.
Just make one caveat about the school. Though I guess it is technically improving the school, I'd say more specifically, as opposed to the past, especially when you have people on your board that aren't academics, but I guess we're business majors and are business people and like accountants and stuff, is that the improvements to the school aren't strictly improvements directly to education, but cosmetic improvements, aesthetic improvements to be more attractive to students, but not necessarily like increasing funding for research, but increasing funding so that gym looks nice, so that your sports people can be taken care of while they're sort of making money for your school by doing sports, or just so it's more attractive for people that want to like live in a place, because you're sort of also selling a place to live as opposed to just an education, which I guess makes sense and isn't really a thing to condemn an institution for, but it just sort of seems slightly misplaced sometimes, especially when some cosmetic changes would be a lot better for students in general, I guess. I don't know. I complain sometimes about heating and how it's sort of irregular. And, well, I guess the school has Wi-Fi now, but it didn't have it before, which I guess is a welcome change. But I really don't like how you have to sign into everything all strangely, and how a lot of my peripheral devices don't work with it, so it's still weird. I don't know. It just sort of seems like some more money could be spent on, I guess, more programs and more strictly education-related stuff instead of aesthetic things that don't strictly impact education, unless you're sort of this way of, if the place looks great, you're going to feel better, and if you feel better, you're going to study harder and retain more information, which I guess is true, would be true, or is true, but I guess it's less of a direct thing and more of a passive buff, as opposed to a direct upgrade in learning. Yeah,
but I don't think that colleges purely invest in their aesthetics. I'm not even sure if they, I haven't done research on this, but I'm not sure if they even put more money into their aesthetics than they do into real actual change in their schools. Because if a school has a fund for a new, say, forensics team that they're putting together, they're going to advertise the heck out of that.
That's true.
Because any way that they can make themselves seem more appealing to students, they're going to, and making a campus look nice and making you feel good whenever you're there, that's part of it, but I think that no matter how much money you spend on aesthetics, one, kids are going to realize that even if the school looks pretty, it might not be where they want to be.
Yeah.
I went to, we're going to school up in Wisconsin here, and one of the schools that I visited, it was the school that I'm at now, and another school called Carthage in Kenosha. And that school is absolutely beautiful. It's literally on Lake Michigan. Quite literally. It's I I'm not sure of the technicalities, but I want to say that it's technically a park, like a state park, and so, you know, the tuition there was higher. I'm gonna let that out there. But it was absolutely beautiful. It was on Lake Michigan. You could go down to the shore, literally walk down from your dorm and just go to the shore. You could see the ocean, dear God. I'm such an American. The lake. You could literally see the lake from your classrooms. It was beautiful. But I didn't want to go there because, yeah, it was pretty, but it did not, I guess this isn't scientific, but it didn't feel right to me. I felt very much more like this is where I should have been. So no matter how much money that school spent on their beautification and aesthetics, which I guarantee you was a lot, I still went here. So just because a school puts money into aesthetics doesn't mean that they're going to, you know, necessarily attract more students, which they probably will, but I'm not sure if the increase is that much. And I think the schools know that. I think they're keenly aware that students aren't just looking for a pretty place to be. They're looking for a school that is going to be highly academic and highly athletic, depending on who you are, and well, yeah, I think that's probably the main focus of students is how athletic this school is and how academic this school is. Because if I saw that this school was putting quite a bit of money into a new academic building that they were going to set up for this new department that they're going to put together, that would be a really positive sign for me. And, you know, for any of the 3 people listening to this podcast, if you're going to go to college soon, and if the school is putting together a whole new department that isn't merging, that isn't 2 departments coming together, it's a brand new thing, that's a very healthy sign. That's an extremely healthy sign of a school.
It's sort of interesting, though, that, like, I guess it sort of indirectly contributes to my major changes. Though I guess it would be a factor is that the school that we're going to now is actually cutting one of my minors as opposed to adding something or combining something. So
well, the school is also cutting one of. Well, it used to be my major. I changed it before I didn't change majors because of the cutting of the major, which sounds crazy, but trust me, it's a different situation. And I know that our friend down the hall from us, she is a anthropology major and a German minor, I want to say.
Sure.
And both of those are getting cut.
Oh. Well.
So it's kind of a sad moment. But you know the school is it's not like we're closing. No one worry, we're fine.
Yeah, it's not like shutting down and imploding financially.
If I may. Wow, I'm saying if I may now.
If you may.
I've never done that before.
Oh,
okay. I feel weird.
Okay.
Anyway, if I may.
If you may.
There was a school that I want to say was out in Virginia that was an all-girls school. Cool. That What? Did you just get excited when I said all-girls?
I just said cool.
Yeah, I know. You said
cool. You're making a big deal out of it.
Anyway, I am making a big deal out of it. Anyway, it was a girls' school, and I forget what the name was, but it did actually close a couple years ago. Oh. It was a college, and
not cool.
Yeah, not cool.
Not cool.
And that just, I guess it makes you wonder, because it's a very real concern. You think, it's a college, it's here, look at all these buildings, this isn't ever going to just get wiped off the map. But it can happen. That one school that we don't know the name of, they just weren't going to be a college the next year because actually I don't know the reason, but I'm going to assume that it was financial reasons.
Just not economically viable or able to support itself anymore. Sort of sad. Boy. So, I hate to sort of abruptly change topic, but there is something I do want to talk about.
Well, let's go for that.
College education. Is that even though most likely you're going to be someone who has to have a college education to sort of reach a higher economic or a higher career station in life. It is technically still possible to not go straight to college and still do well. And I have like one anecdotal example, and I'm really only like I guess mentioning it now because I'm sort of really, really proud of him, and I want to get more of his work and stuff out there. He's he's a developer for Happy Badger Studios, which is like indie game studio, and they're coming out with a game called Smugglecraft that's going to be out at some time in the future. I forget, unfortunately, and that's going to be great. It's going to be on PlayStation, and he just sort of went straight out of high school and started working and doing what he loved, and is great, and sort of working in St. Louis with the big dev situation and sort of startup situation being really, really great there, and sort of being all gung-ho and doing what he loves. And I'm repeating stuff I already said before because I'm sort of getting excited just thinking about how he's sort of going out there and making it in life while I'm sort of here in this jail cell learning about the love of wisdom, philosophy, and art, and computer science. So it's just sort of like, yes, you sort of need to absolutely do it, but I guess I wanted to put a little bit of a nuance there so that you don't have to absolutely do it. Though, I guess if you're one of those people, like if you're swayed by this conversation to not go to college from this small anecdote, that probably would not be the best thing, especially since we all talked about how much you need college for most of this conversation.
Now wait here. You're saying two totally different things.
Well,
you're saying, no, you need to go to college, and don't listen to this anecdote. You need to go to college, but you don't have to because he's not going to college. Which one is it? Do you need to, or do you not need to?
I do not deal in absolutes.
Oh my gosh.
Only Sith deal in absolutes.
That's a cop-out.
That's not a cop-out.
That's a total cop-out.
That's relevant. That's topical. Star Wars is awesome. So anyway, I guess I also wanted to give a bit of a shout-out because like, oh, cool thing. Supporting friends and whatever.
I get that.
And stuff. But
okay, hold on.
Yeah.
If you get to, I'm reserving my one free...
my
one free... plug for my friend, because I have a friend of mine.
Okay,
she's a YouTuber.
That's fine,
and she's lovely.
That's cool.
And I almost dated her once, actually.
Oh, okay.
I probably shouldn't. I don't have to say that, but still,
we're not gonna edit that out. That's gonna stay.
Dang it. Fine, we can keep that. But
okay.
I mean, she's aware of the situation.
Okay.
She's aware that I almost dated her.
That's fine.
So, which is usually how dates are supposed to go.
Yeah, you should be aware that someone's gonna date you. You shouldn't just show up at a place. Like, you show up, even, like, especially if it's, like, sort of a trashy, well, I guess trashy or, like, lower place. So you're going to, like, you have to go to a McDonald's because you're really hungry, and you have to go back to work, like, 20 minutes later, and it's across town. You go into McDonald's, and all of a sudden, some guy shows up, and sort of like, we're on a date right now. And you're like, no, we're not. And he's like, yes, we are. And for some reason, you accept this, and now you're on this blind date you didn't want to be on, and you're sort of frustrated. You're on your lunch break. You had to take care of some business. You don't have much time. And now this dude's trying to chat you up. And he's sort of like, hey, I do CrossFit. We should go on a CrossFit date next time. And it's sort of weird because you're like, I'm not a very active person. And then you remember that one article you read about adrenaline and romantic feelings. And you think that this guy is trying to get you to go on an exercise date so that you have higher adrenaline, and you associate those feelings that are the same feelings you have when you have romantic feelings. Like, high adrenaline is the same for fright and love and sort of excitement in general. So if you're associated with someone and you're sort of only associated with that person in a situation where you're forced to feel that way, so like if you always watch scary movies or scary something always happens to you around certain people, I guess is why it's sort of done in movies. The main person, the main dude, and then the main woman really don't care for each other and sort of seem like opposites, but then by the end of the movie, after they almost died several times, they're now in love with each other. It's because of that adrenaline. So something accurate in movies. So you think about this because you overthink everything, and this is kind of weird, and this dude is chatting you up, and he looks sort of weird. He has like a weird like mustache that he should have shaved or something. And then he has like a bit of facial hair. I don't know why I'm painting a clear picture. He has kind of a long nose. I'm not sure why he has a long nose. But little ears. They're cute ears. It's like the only part of him that you like, but you don't really like anything else. Okay, right now.
Are you describing me?
I'm not describing.
Are you describing me?
You don't have a long nose, and
do I not?
I don't really see that I feel like you shaved that mustache a bit.
I did.
Like a few days ago. Like a few days ago.
I'm at that point in my life, for the 3 people who can't see me right now, where I don't have to shave every day, which is kind of nice, but I'm still getting I still get this little bit of stubble that's really uncomfortable.
See.
So I never know if I have a creepy little shadow mustache popping up.
See, if I have a creepy little shadow anything popping out, that means that I've been growing it for a month. So. So yeah. So anyway.
So I'm just going to stop you for a second.
Yes.
You remember that one time when you said that you were pedantic and you have a way of going around things?
Yes.
And I said that was the most true thing you had ever said in your life?
Yes.
That's still the most true thing you've ever said in your life?
Yes, it is.
Because what were we even talking about?
We're talking about college education is what this is about.
Oh, there's something before that.
And then I was talking about how you don't have to do something.
Right,
you don't have to go to college, but you should still go to college. And then this hypothetical scenario when you're at a McDonald's and someone tries to chat you. When someone gets you on a date and you don't want to be on a date. And you realize you're on a date even though you didn't want to be on a date, and the only thing you like about that person is their cute little ears. And you don't have cute little ears. I'm sorry.
Ears? Okay.
I don't know. Maybe someone thinks they're cute.
I'm sure somebody does. But yeah, I was saying that, and I want to get it on record that I now have my one free plug for the friend.
That's true.
For the friend that I almost dated.
The longest
the
plug.
lovely friend.
The longest plug ever.
Well, I'm not going to say it now. This would drive her crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're going to say...
I'm saving it. I'm saving it.
You're saving it.
I'm going to plug it for later.
Okay. I just want to let you know that you only have this one plug, but I can plug anything and anyone I want to. So you have your one plug that you're declaring now, but I can just do whatever I want. Is that okay?
No.
That's fine.
No.
It's okay. He's saying no, but he's nodding his head.
No, I'm not.
You can't see his head, but he's nodding yes, even though he's saying no.
The difficulties of podcasts.
You have no
can't
proof.
See me. I don't have proof.
You have no proof that he's not nodding his head. He is. He's doing it much harder now. It's actually a bit concerning. Stop doing that. Please. Okay. Now he's done nodding.
So you said that you don't deal in absolutes.
No, because I'm not a Sith.
All right, fine. I'll give you that. Is it the rule or the exception that you don't go to college and you still make good money?
Exception.
Okay, so the rule is then you go to college and you make good money.
Yeah, the general rule is you go to college and then you make good money.
So you're not saying that. What you're saying is you need to go to college, essentially.
I'm saying that if you're on the fence, you should go to college. Or try to go to college, if you can. There are some situations, I guess, where you can't, and you may have to wait a few years because of whatever type of thing, but you should try to go to college. Because even in college, there are lots of things to do. It's not sort of like, if I'm going to college, I'm definitely going to be doing this one thing, and everything's laid out for you. You can go, even with that mindset, and then have it change drastically. Like, I guess in my case, I didn't think I was going to be a philosophy major at all. Because before I was thinking, philosophy is pretty darn useless. And I kind of still have that opinion a little bit. Like, I'm still realistic with myself about that fact that...
I'm glad that you are.
But I kind of think... Well, no, I don't think philosophy is really actually too terribly useless. But I think that
you were so close.
It alone, like if you're just doing philosophy and you're not going to be an academic, then you're kind of wasting it. But if you have it paired with anything else, like even a little bit, then it's okay and you're fine because it's just critical thinking, and I guess critical thinking is only useful if you're critically thinking about something practical. But if you're just critically thinking about critically thinking, then you should be an academic like throughout your entire life, like a teacher in education and stuff like that. As opposed to, I'm a philosophy major, let's get a job outside of university. And then you're just sort of...
Did you just call it university?
I just hear it usually called university. Oh, that's my fault.
Are we going to throw that out?
I think we're probably going to throw this out. Oh. anyone want food interrupting this podcast because you might want
90% of the entire chat
is just
who's gonna get food?
Okay.
Can nobody just go to dinner anymore without like the reassurance that?
Anyway, apparently
so
not.
let's give it a pause so we have another space to edit. We're in an edit spot.
That's fine. I'll be listening to this.
All right.
Am I gonna edit this or are you gonna edit it? I'll edit it.
You'll
it's already
edit
on my computer.
Yeah, and you have much more of an editing sense.
Yeah, I already know. How to use it more.
Jumping back in, I'm going to challenge your little your little opinion there about needing to be an academic with a philosophy major. I read a memoir by I can't remember his name. Oh man, this is anyway. That's a bit embarrassing that I just can't remember his name.
I don't know. We can try and Google it while you're talking about it. What's the thing?
Anyway, it was a guy who went to college in Louisiana, and he became a philosophy major, and he eventually got a job as working as like a hotel valet service, and he wrote this book about how he worked his way up through the hotel ranks to become a I know he got offered a job as a full manager of a hotel eventually, and I don't think he took it, but I know that he eventually got to the point where he could have been a hotel manager. And then he wrote this book about it, and I'm assuming he's a fairly successful guy. He went all across. I think he went pretty much all across the country. He went to Denmark for a little while, and it's a really interesting memoir. He became a philosophy major and got out of college, and within the first few pages of the book acknowledges how useless a philosophy major is. But I'm sure he used that degree somehow in his.
I mean, it's critical thinking.
It's critical thinking. So saying that you can only really use it if you're an academic, then.
Well, alone. Like, if you're just doing critical thinking for critical thinking. Because philosophy literally translates to the love of wisdom. Philos, love. Sophia, wisdom.
Philosophy. I actually knew that.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
I'm going to feel smart right now.
That's fine. You can. I believe you. It's fine. So anyway, the love of wisdom, but if it's just love of wisdom for the love of wisdom, and you're not sort of applying that critical thinking to other areas, which it's almost impossible to do because you need things to talk about unless it's the existential questions. Sort of like, is this real? Am I real? Are you real? What is real? What is what? Silence, but that's a question. Like ellipses, question mark. That can be fun, tons of fun, but it's ultimately, I think, useless without it being partnered from something. Which I guess is okay since it's, like I said, very, very hard to separate critical thinking from any type of subject matter or content in the world. So I guess even though I'm not retracting or recanting what I said, it's just very unlikely that you're going to be able to do a lot of philosophy without engaging in everything else, since it's sort of in everything. Sort of. Like the philosophical tradition is basically what started college education way back when in ancient times, like Greek stuff, and I guess the eventual enlightening of different Western countries and thought comes from the tradition of discussing and debating and critical thinking. So you need to have a place where lots of people gather and think critically. And that sort of thing has been driven historically by philosophers or people who think critically, or sort of like, we need a place to think critically about everything. And then that becomes college. But for a long time, it's still like, we men need to think critically about things. Sort of like, well, I guess first would be, we noble men need to think critically about things, where I guess it's still mostly white guys. And then we men need to think about things. But I guess at first it's we men that own land, sort of like how voting in America worked for a long time. It's like men need to vote, but only really important men. And men who own land. So if you're a dude and you own land, you could vote, and then eventually, relatively recently, or actually really recently and historically, then women and then minorities, and now it's this happy place where anyone can get an education, except a caveat in America, with anyone willing to saddle themselves in debt can get an education. So yeah.
And we're harping this debt thing.
You're harping this debt thing because it's just what we have. It's just what we're gonna have.
I mean, it's not like we're gonna try and like. It's not like we're trying to change anything.
That's true.
This is just genuinely.
That frustration. It's like, oh, we're gonna be in debt for a long while, for a little while.
Well, actually, I'm not gonna get into it. Okay. With my future plans, I might not be. So
okay,
it might be you, buddy.
Oh, it just might be me.
Yeah.
I may be. I'm not saying that. Oh God, voice.
That was pretty bad.
That was pretty bad. It was like it went back to middle school. It's like traveled back in time. My larynx traveled back in time and didn't give me notice. So I guess I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be too terribly terrible for me, but I still recognize that debt's still gonna be something I'm gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, the asterisk on the debt thing, I guess, is that the whole point of college is to get you a, well, that's arguable.
Yeah.
But part of let me rephrase that. Part of the reason for college is to get you a job that will pay you much better than if you had just come out of high school and started working.
It's an investment.
Right. So, yeah, you're going to have a ton of debt, but the idea is that you'll have a good job that pays a lot, so you can use that to try and pay off your debt, which isn't always the case, and I have fundamental issues with the idea, the concept of debt. It makes me angry.
You've called it slavery, I think, a few times.
I usually refer to it as financial slavery.
Yes.
Because that's what it is. Yeah. That's just what it is.
I'm not, I guess, in principle, I kind of agree with you, but I don't think I'd call it financial slavery because, I don't know, in the broad scheme of things, money and still being indebted to people and owing people things has been a way for people to rise above and below different economic stations. So as opposed to a really, really long time ago when you're a peasant, because you were born that way, and then you sort of have to do that all your life. And all you can trade is what you make, so you can't really gather something valuable. And once you have this sort of abstract concept of money, and this little piece of paper represents gold or platinum or just worth in general, then it becomes possible, even though it's very, very difficult for someone in a lower ranker station to maybe save up and then make a good business decision so they get more of that abstract quantity. But it still sucks to be in debt. So yeah.
I understand the economic use of debt, which makes me want to wash out my mouth when I say that. But I understand the economic use of debt, and I understand the idea that debt is what helps the economy grow, because you can make more money whenever banks lend out money, and then they get more money, and it helps the economy grow, which I understand, and that can be debated, but I think that it's my basic ideal that the capitalism is a good thing. There are different forms of it, and there should be some government oversight, but not too much. I'm not a fan of socialism, but capitalism is a good thing. So this whole economic growth is a good thing, but I can't come to accept debt as a good thing. Fundamentally, I don't want to call it a good thing, because I think that you should be able to, and I guess this is a should, but I think you should be able to make more money by, the American dream, working hard and being dedicated and being, clever, or, really, really thoughtful on something so that you create this thing. And I get that you can, if you want to invent something, you can get a loan and you can then create that thing with that money and then you pay back that money. But the thing is the downside, I guess what is the real financial slavery is the downside to lending.
Yeah.
If you have this invention and you think, well, this will be great, I'm going to need some money, so you go to a bank and you say, this is what I'm going to do with your money, and the bank says, okay, we think that'll make money, here, we'll loan you some, and you say, great, and you invent this invention and you put it on the market, and it's a complete dud.
Yeah.
And you aren't making money and you can't pay back your loans, then, with my limited understanding of economics, I guess that would be the real financial slavery, is whenever you can't pay back your loans, and so the bank starts to take your house and your stuff and everything that they possibly can to liquidate and try and get their money back, because that's a natural idea with that. So I guess the idea that the natural consequence of, I guess, a concept where the natural way would be so hurtful to somebody is fundamentally wrong to me. It just feels so very wrong, which is why I can't stand debt. I just can't stand it. It's so terrible. I have other qualms economically. Maybe we'll talk about those later on.
It'd be a good thing.
Yeah.
I can talk about how much I just love socialism. I like to pet it at night. But I do like capitalism. Like social capitalism.
Now hold on.
I do. You can like both. It's
Hold
fine.
on.
It's fine.
No.
You can like both.
Oh.
You can like both. You can be red and what color is capitalism? Blue?
I guess blue.
Red and blue. You can be red and blue. You can be purple. It's a royal color.
What's strange, though, is that in America, Republicans are red and Democrats are blue, even though a lot of Democrats would be socialists and a lot of Republicans would be capitalists. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess so.
Although, communism is red, so I guess socialism would be slightly pink.
Socialism would be pink?
Yeah, socialism would be like slightly pink.
It's an interesting thought. I thought it would
Interesting conversations where we talk about colors.
I thought it would be salmon. Salmon socialism. Like salmon-colored socialism.
Well, okay, I can get that. I like the alliteration.
Salmon socialism.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
Debt.
Right, and how much I hate it. Yeah, and I have other economic qualms that I'll come back to. I guarantee you, credit cards coming for you.
Boy, it's just like it's a way to get out of your economic station. But if you're poor, it's harder, and if you mess up, it'll be worse for you.
Yeah,
so like if you're richer, everything's easier for you, and it's much harder for you to become poorer. But if you're poor, it doesn't like there's no leverage. That's sort of like I guess I'm not arguing for a way to keep rich people from being rich, but there isn't a leverage to sort of balance and make it so that poorer people or people in lower economic station can get up to like middle class without so much more risk. Because it's sort of like if I don't keep doing and maintaining what I'm doing now, I'm going to do something that could possibly fuck up everything, and then it would be not that great.
You just used the F word.
Oh, I did.
Are we gonna keep that?
I think that's fine. Is that okay? Are we okay? I don't know.
All right.
That's
We can.
fine.
No,
We're defining.
new thing.
We're
new thing.
defining.
We don't know what's right.
We're defining. I already said like shit before.
Well, yeah, you did, but
that's true.
But that's a new level there.
Is it a new level?
I think it's a new level.
I don't think it is.
Anyway.
I feel like this is fine. I feel like everything's okay. I feel like
you feel like everything's okay.
I feel like everything is perfect in the world, and
everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Everything is cool when you're
Everything's
part
cool
of the team.
Part of a team.
Oh, we're gonna have to pay royalties now.
Oh, I haven't seen. Oh, I guess so.
Ah, man, there goes all of our funding.
Okay, so if we're not back next week, you'll know why.
Yeah, they liquidated our show.
We were sued because we quoted a movie that was made 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I don't know. I think it was 2 years ago.
A movie I have not even seen, so I couldn't even enjoy it. I've never seen it.
Never seen it.
No, I have not seen
It's
that movie.
Good. It is really good.
A movie to sell toys.
Oh no!
It's a movie to sell toys.
Movie.
It's still a movie to sell toys.
I doubt it.
What do you mean, John? It's a Lego movie.
No one makes a good movie. It wasn't a commercial movie. Nobody makes a good movie
that
like
was
that.
definitely a commercial movie.
No one makes a good...
Just because it's good
You've
doesn't
never
mean
seen
it's
it!
not
You've never seen it!
I don't have to see it to know.
You have never seen it!
If it is a movie, if it's a Lego movie called Lego Movie, where everything is Legos and it's awesome, then how is that not, like, wonderful advertisement for Legos? I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's what it is.
Oh, I'm saying that's bad.
It's bad that it's an advertisement? It's bad that a great movie can support a product from a business?
Yes, because...
You sound like a socialist.
You're on thin ice, pal. Oh, okay. You are on thin ice.
Okay, let's...
No. We're not going to get off this.
Oh, really?
We're gonna box it out on the thin ice now.
We're going to box it out on the thin ice.
A movie should not be a commercial venture.
Really?
You really, I mean, I understand you should make money when you make a movie. Yes, that's perfectly fine. That's good. But you should not be in it solely for the money. And I don't think that the Lego Movie...
closet socialist.
Oh my god. I don't think the Lego Movie was...
Closet communist.
No, I think the Lego Movie might have been closet communist, actually.
Oh, no, I was talking about the movie. I was talking about you. I haven't seen the movie, remember?
I think... It's actually funny, but yeah, it might be a little bit communist. But anyway, I mean, just to put things in perspective, the villain in the Lego Movie, his name is like Mr. Business or something.
I do know that.
Yeah, it might be kind of communist. Anyway, a movie shouldn't be a commercial venture. It should be you're either there are different. I think there are 3 different tiers of movie. There's like They're like the popcorn movies that are just fun, and then there are
like a B movie that's
like
good.
Art. Well, they're like popcorn movies that are fun. Then there's like artistic films, and then there's some sort of third tier. I should have figured that out, but it's interesting. But
high art, good movies, and then whatever class those like Marvel movies and Star Wars: The Force Awakens and different stuff are on, or would that just be really good movies that you just like to watch as opposed to whatever?
I have no idea. I know that there are 3 tiers, but when you're making a movie, I'm pretty sure that one of the tiers isn't money. I don't, if you're gonna make a movie, go for one of the 3 tiers. I don't care if Michael Bay wants to make his Transformers and he wants to make it really cool and awesome, and a bunch of 14-year-old boys are gonna love it. That's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. But what I have a problem with is him making those movies just so that he can make money. Because that makes really terrible movies.
Well, I mean, not according to, like, everyone watching his movies. That's everyone that watches his movies, and then they make a whole lot of money because everyone's liking them. Well, everyone's watching them and enjoying them, and then right after doing that, recanting their enjoyment and saying how terrible Michael Bay is, even though everyone's going to see his movies. It's sort of interesting.
But I'm not saying that the movies can't make money. What I'm saying is that their purpose should not be solely to make money. And I don't think that Michael Bay's movies are solely to make money. I think he likes making movies just because he likes making movies, and he likes making movies for 14-year-old boys, which he's perfectly fine with, which, more power to him.
I kind of feel like Michael Bay doesn't make movies for 14-year-old children. I think he makes movies for everyone, but understands that we think that we're sophisticated people, but we really do just like to see things blow up.
Oh, I love to see things blow up.
Yeah.
But my thing is that, well, for one thing, if we're going to pry into the life of Happy here a little bit, I hate Shia LaBeouf. I can't stand his face.
Really?
I watched Holes and I liked it. And that was the only one.
Even Steven?
I never watched Even Steven.
That's why you don't like him.
I just want to punch him right in his face.
Why?
I can't stand him. But anyway, I can't stand Shia LaBeouf. I like things blowing up, but whenever it's so CGI'd that it's all glossy and slick and disgusting looking, it looks so fake. I can't stand it. Even if it's realistic fake, I can't stand it. That's part of the reason why Jurassic World was a bit of a flop, even though it was a pretty alright movie. It was fun, but I can't stand the fakey CGI and the plot. It's pretty straightforward, which is fine for a movie, but that would just bore me whenever everything's blowing up and it's like, oh, this isn't exciting because everything's blowing up now. A good movie that has things blowing up which, this might be cliche, but I'm going to say Inception.
Yeah.
Because, they had gunfights, they had a train going through a town, they had, things exploding, they had water gushing into walls, but, it made you think, it made you had to think about it, and that's what I find more enjoyable, is whenever I have to sit down to a movie and I leave, and I think, that was confusing. I have to, in a good way, like, that was so deep and complex that I have to watch it a couple more times. That's very enjoyable to me. So, just because it's a fun popcorn movie, that's not my thing. And that's not bad. If someone wants to enjoy Transformers, that's fine. So, there's my little, there's Happy's little hamster wheel of thought.
Okay. Well, I can enjoy popcorn movies, though, not to, sort of take a dump on Inception, because I think it was a really good movie. I don't think it was that complicated of a movie. It was a point
you were right back on thin ice.
Right back on thin ice. It's like the idea of trying to plant an idea in someone's head, and you need to do this job for someone so this company makes a lot of money based on this person's decision while they're emotionally vulnerable because their father just died. That seems relatively straightforward. It's cool, and it's interesting, but I'm not sure if it's as complex as it's always talked about. I feel like it sort of gets, even the name of the movie and the word and people talking about it has been obfuscated and confused, because Inception does not mean thing within a thing within a thing. It means to plan an idea, and I guess you can hear me getting a bit angry at this, because I just see it online so much, and then people say Inception when they see a thing and a thing and a thing, and it's like, that's not what that word means. You do not know what this word means. But anyway,
so
it's a good movie.
I'm going to ask you.
Noscom.
How many times did you have to see that movie before you fully understood it?
I think I've only seen it once.
There's no one watches that movie once completely understands it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that I would have new perspective on it from watching another time, but I didn't come back from it confused about the general thing that happened in the movie. I'm just sort of like, oh, that was really cool, and I really liked how the effects were. I don't know. There are movies that I like. I like a lot of, I guess I like a few movies. I wouldn't really call myself a movie watcher, though, I guess. But, if I like a movie, that could mean I don't see it ever again. But there are some movies that aren't even really that good, and I've seen them over and over again, and they're just decent. What is it called? Get Smart is a movie that I've seen.
Yeah, that's pretty decent.
That was a decent movie. It wouldn't be the best movie in probably anyone's book unless they were just a Steve Carell fanboy or something like that.
Which really, who is these days?
Well, some people might be.
Now that The Office is kind of is it off the air? I don't know if it's off the air now.
I don't think there are any more seasons of The Office.
Yeah. Now that it's not really what it used to be. I don't think there are many people who are like, Steve Carell.
He still does movies, so they could still like him as an actor and stuff, not just from The Office. But I still think, that movie is one, I don't know how many times I've watched that movie. There have been some days, during the summer, I had the DVD, and what I would do is I would have, I have the laptop on my lap, and I would, browse the web, but I would be watching the movie in the background. And then when it was over, I would start it again. And then that would just be my day.
I've actually I've heard of people doing that before whenever they work on things, is they will put something on in the background on loop hundreds and hundreds of times, which I've never understood. Because that would drive me insane. That would literally just drive me insane.
I don't know, maybe it just has to be something interesting with the subject matter that you could reintroduce yourself to. Inception, for you, apparently. You could do that so you could come to understand it after every single reiteration while you're working on something.
But see, the thing is, I didn't watch Inception while I was working on something, and then whenever it ended, play it over again. I would watch it and then think, man, that was really interesting. And then the next day, watch it again. I think the only exception here, I did this once, there was one movie that it came out, and whenever I saw it, I watched it a solid 3 or 4 times in a row.
Okay.
You wanna take a guess as to what that was? It was a big movie.
It's a big movie.
It was a really big movie when it came out.
Oh.
And it was genuinely good, but I watched it a solid 3 or 4 times.
How recent is this movie?
Not too recent anymore. Like, we're talking years rather than months. We'll put it that way.
Titanic?
Not that far back.
Oh.
And by the way, I never liked Titanic all that much. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. It was meh.
You're on thin ice now. We're both on thin ice. I like that movie.
Didn't James Cameron direct that?
I have no idea.
I think he did. Anyway, that's not important. So yeah, not that far back.
Terrible at movies. Not Transformers.
No, it sure as heck wasn't Transformers. Sorry, Michael Bay.
It wasn't a Marvel movie, was it?
It wasn't. No.
Oh.
Although I am a big Marvel fan.
Oh well, I haven't really watched anything recently except for Marvel movies, basically.
You know this is a movie.
I do know this movie.
You know that this is a movie.
I know that this is a movie.
Even if you haven't seen it, you know it's a movie.
Even if I haven't seen it. Goodness. Now I have to think about all the movies I haven't watched. Because they aren't by Marvel or something making a superhero or whatever thing. Goodness. Is it based off of a book?
It was not. Well, just take a solid guess. Just throw something out there. I'll tell you right.
I honestly don't have any other guesses.
Just throw something out there.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
Even though you said no Marvel movies.
Although I only watched Guardians of the Galaxy fairly recently. Like, I want to say over Thanksgiving.
Oh.
So, yeah. But the movie that I watched 2 or 3 or 4 times in a row was Frozen.
That's great.
Oh, man.
I don't know why I didn't guess that. That's wonderful.
I didn't know you'd seen it.
What do you mean you didn't know I'd seen it?
I didn't know you'd seen it.
You don't know that I'd seen Frozen?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Really? Really? Actually? In real life?
Anyway, when I was still in high school, that movie came out, and that's the first time I've ever said that. I think we've officially started the process of getting like to our 20s or to our like middle-agedness. This is the beginning because I just said that movie came out when I was in high school.
Oh my goodness, that's such a millennial thing to say in your early 20s to say this is the beginning of my middle-agedness.
I mean, it's not the beginning, but it's like the beginning of the path to my middle-agedness. I'm not saying it's
turning 6 is the beginning of the path to middle-agedness because you're closer to being middle-aged than you were before.
No,
I'd still say we're pretty young.
We are young. We are definitely very young.
I wouldn't say we're on the path to middle-agedness until our 30s. I would say by then we're just like adults. And then it's just sort of like whatever. It
felt very strange to say that movie came out when I was in high school.
Oh, I thought what was very strange to say was that you watched Frozen and you liked it and you watched it multiple times.
That was strange too. So yeah, that movie came out when I was in high school and it was my senior year and I was working on some sort of English project at the time that involved me dyeing white paper in tea to make it look old and then like draping it over some fishing line that I'd stretched across our kitchen. And so while I was doing that and working on that English project, I was watching Frozen a couple of times in a row. So that's the only time I've ever done that.
That's good. It's good. It's great. It's wonderful. It's nice.
So I think we're coming pretty close to the end here. We've been talking for a long while.
Yeah, longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess...
Well, how much of college did we talk about?
Well, I think we still talked a bit about college, and just really compounded and talked about how much debt we're going to be in and how we're going to have to manage that. And it's just a reality that it's necessary, practically, to go to college. But it's still a little bit of a pain in the tuchus.
A little bit of a pain in the tuchus?
It's a little bit of a pain in the fiscal tuchus. So yeah.
I would call it a little more than that.
Okay. So I guess you've been happy, and I've been that owl guy, and I guess we're going to let it go, or really so
that's even more.
Let you go.
Those are even more royalties we have to pay now.
Oh goodness! If we're not back next week, you'll know exactly
you know why. We got liquidated.
I guess we're gonna let you guys go, and I guess you're gonna hear us next week. Okay.
So, yeah.
Bye.
So long.
Farewell.
Auf Wiedersehen. Even more royalties that we're gonna have to pay.
Royalties.
That's 3.
Okay.
Jeez. Alright.
Okay. Later.
This has been the first podcast of Happy Guys, the podcast of ThatOwlGuy and me, the Happy Hamster. If you enjoyed, we'll have more. There are weekly episodes coming out every Sunday. If you're a bloggy type of person, hop on over to ThatOwlGuy's blog on WordPress, owlguy.wordpress.com. There will be links in the description on YouTube and on SoundCloud. The song you heard in the beginning was Good Thing by the group Menage Quad. What you're listening to now in the background is Bach's Cello Suite No. 1 in G major. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next week.